Hi everyone, this is Key. Welcome to my video blog. Today I'm going to be talking about this concept called becoming a listing agent is first and foremost a decision that is followed by a plan of action. I want to emphasize that when we choose to become real estate professionals, either brokers, agents, we're first in the business of being decision makers. Once we make the decisions, then things start aligning themselves. So let's see what I'm talking about. See, many think that when you start your real estate career, you have to start with skills, obviously, knowledge, experience with buyers, and then you gradually graduate to working and becoming a listing agent. It seems logical. I mean, you're beginning your career, you need to learn a lot about this business. You need to understand how to put contracts together. It seems safer and easier to spend 6 months to a year learning and kind of getting yourself ready by working with buyers. See, that thinking is not strategic. You see, the decision of becoming a listing agent will force you to rearrange the world around you, rearrange your thinking, rearrange your plan of action, rearrange your day, and you will achieve it. Being a listing agent is first and foremost a decision. It is not something you graduate to. You just make the decision that you're a listing agent. I mean, you can continue working with buyers, obviously, but that decision will force you to start working your business as a proper prospector. A prospector is somebody who's looking for sellers and also buyers to work with them so they can make better decisions about buying or selling. Those who make the decisions after achieving the skills tend to be of the employee mindset, which is very understandable. You're not going to apply for a job as an engineer unless you have the skills of an engineer. That is what a firm will hire you to do. And then they will pay you in accordance of your skills plus your experience, and they give you a salary. In real estate or as an entrepreneur, you are not an employee. No one else is paying you. You're producing results. You're in the business of creating your reality. You're not in the business of waiting for somebody to tell you what your reality should be. So therefore, when you decide and then you create the steps of working the plan, then you start producing results. There are new agents who join the real estate industry and do better than agents who've been in the business 10, 15 years. And the only difference is some of them have made the decision, I'm going to be a listing agent. Others, for some reason, they're waiting. I don't know if they're waiting for an external force, they're waiting for the phone to ring, they're waiting for it to happen rather than deciding that's who they are. See, decisions force you to rearrange your life, rearrange the people around you, rearrange your priorities so you can achieve them, because in real estate, everything is a checklist. Becoming a listing agent is not this esoteric thing that only a few have and others don't. No, it's simply a checklist that you work on a daily basis and it produces results. Let me give you some statistics. In the US, 5.2 to 5.3 million homes change hands. That means 5.2 to 5.3 million homeowners decide to sell, and therefore they need to be matched with buyers. And every year, 5.2 to 5.3 million homes are sold. That means there is a match between a seller and a buyer. But the demand in the United States is about 7.5 to 8 millions. If the market was driven by buyers, Well, guess what? Given that there are 7.5 to 8 million, they will compel buyers to come to market, sellers to come to market. But that's not what happens. Buyers buy what is in the marketplace. And one of the challenges we have in the United States is a lack of inventory between what's called the median home price. The median home price in the United States is about in the 200 to 300. That price range of homes is we're lacking a lot of them. Buyers buy the inventory brought to market by listing agents. Now, some of you may go, well, that includes FSBOs. That does. But FSBOs in the United States are less than 6%. They're about 5.3, 5.2%. In fact, the latest statistics show that the percentage of FSBOs is at its lowest since the 60s. That means that the majority, 95, 96, 97% of all of the listings are brought in by listing agents. And therefore, they're the one controlling the market. Do you understand what I mean, control the market? They still have to price it correctly to match it properly with the buyer. We know that. But that means the person bringing the inventory, the person putting these homes on the shelf, is opening the market to the buyers to make decisions about which one will suit them the best. And then there's competition in terms of pricing between listing agents, and hopefully a deal is put together. And what is interesting also about this process is most people think that sellers are selling because of the economy, because of what's happening in the elections. Nope. 90% of all sellers are making decisions because life happens to them. In fact, life happens to all of us. There's an aspect of life that you and I cannot control to a degree. Of course, we all want to be healthy. But guess what? Illnesses do exist. So what do I mean by life happens? Sellers sell because either good things are happening in their life or bad things are happening in their life. I mean, of course, we want good things to happen in life. What are examples of good things? Well, job promotions, marriage, having children, growing your family, a change of career for the better. Maybe you quit your job and you decide to become an entrepreneur and you're going to live in Charlotte rather than live in, let's say, Montana. That's a decision you make. So the selling process is driven by life happening on the good side, but also life happens on the negative side. Bad things do happen to people. Divorces, 57% of all marriages end in divorce. Death, guess what? We die as human beings. Major illnesses. There was a study that says 5 million households are an illness away from bankruptcy. Well, what is bankruptcy? Well, bankruptcy means the dissolution of all of their earnings and all of their assets. And guess what? What is the major assets of a person is their home. Now, do we want them to get a major illness so they sell up? Of course not. But that happens every single year. Loss of employment. Some companies close their shop. And guess what? You now have to go find a job. And maybe you can't find a job as an architect in the city you live in, and you have to decide to move and apply for a job and somebody hires you somewhere else. Well, guess what? You have to move your family. Getting older is one of the decisions about selling their home or not. Business loss. There's a lot of people who have business losses that force them to sell their home. It's unfortunate, but it does happen. But don't forget bad weather, hurricanes, earthquakes, things like that cause things to happen. 90% of the 5.2, 5.3 million homes that change hands are happening because of the two things. They are not happening because of the market. The market is that 5.2 million, 5.3 million homes. That's the market. The market is kind of a thing that happens, and it happens in certain area very fast, in other area very slowly. If you go to an area that has a large population like Charlotte, well, guess what? There aren't enough homes in the center of the beltway of Charlotte for people to live around the 200, 300. Most of the homes there are 500 to 700,000. Well, guess what? The majority of the people who want to work there or start a job there have to live in the suburbs of that area. And that opens up the market for the people selling there. The main idea is to understand is that the agent who decides to control their fate by becoming listing agents now are working in the market. They're not controlling the market. They're making the market happen. Every time they help a seller, they're helping a buyer. So if you have to now, there's always this debate, time and emotions. You see, measured in terms of hours worked, if we only measured how many hours does a typical buyer's agent work with a buyer versus the number of hours that a typical listing agent works with a seller, it's 3.5 to 1. For every 3.5 hours of work that a buyer's agent does, the listing agent only works an hour. So there is an efficiency in being able to have listings and actually having a lot of listings. You will see that buyer's agents who work with buyers, if they do about 15 to 25 deals a year, they tend to burn out because they are working 3.5 more times in hours than listing agent. Whereas an agent who has 20 listings can actually control 50 listings and not work any harder. That's the mindset I need you to know. Now, from a time point of view, it is much easier to be a listing agent. But from an emotional point of view, sellers are harder because sellers demand an expertise. They're not just going to give you the listing. You got to have expertise. You have to produce results. You have to have a track record. You have to be excellent at communication. And you have to have confidence that when they list with you, it's going to happen. You're going to walk them through the market and make sure that their home is sold. Now that takes courage, but that's a skill. The things you need to understand that becoming a listing agent is not something esoteric. You just develop the skill. You acquire and learn the skills. Some of you go, where do I learn the skills? Well, start with your broker. Go to your broker and say, hey, I want to become a listing agent. What do I do? I am sure that your broker will say, oh, we either have the training or let me send you on a boot camp or a training with somebody. We'll give you that expertise. No one is born a listing agent. No one is born knowing the whole process of the listing process. It's a skill that is acquired, that is learned, and through repetition of application, you get better. Once you have made the decision to become a listing agent, you start rearranging the furniture in your mind. You start rearranging the way you work your day. You start rearranging how you approach your neighborhoods. You have a different approach. You become a prospector rather than an order taker. You go out there looking for, we call that hunting. You go out there looking for people that are thinking about selling and finding a way to match yourself with them so they list with you. See, it's a mindset. So the decision rearranges the way you approach your business. Should you become a listing agent? That's not my decision to make. I don't think anybody should force you to do anything. By you becoming an entrepreneur, you have made the decision to make decisions for yourself. So therefore, should you become a listing agent? I don't know. Should you become a buyer's agent? I don't know. You decide. I know one thing, if you have the right mix between the two, if you mix some listings with your buyer deals, you will have more of a balanced life. Let's say you did 10 deals a year. And you told me, Key, I've done 3 listings and 7 buyers. Good. You have 30% of your income coming from listings, and that's good. If it's zero, that's the problem. If it's 50-50, it's even better. But if you wanted to go, you know something, I'm going to push and become more of a listing agent. I'm going to do 80-20. 80% listings, 20% buyers. Is that good? Of course. By virtue of having listings, buyers will find you. That's the beauty of running a listing mindset. You have to realize that this saying I'm going to read you is a bit difficult, but defeated and vanquished people make decisions based on their current situation, whereas successful people make decisions based on where they're going to be. I really want you to take some time and think about this. Kind of, have I made the decision to be a listing agent? Have I made the decision to succeed at getting listings in the marketplace? Because the moment you do that, all you have to do is get yourself a plan of action. And the plan of action is very simple. You start talking to the people who know this business. You start talking to your broker, to another listing agent in your MLS or in your office, and you start observing what they do. And you may want to even take classes or trainings or boot camp that are offered to you. And then all of a sudden, if you do your job properly, which is not that hard, you just need to be consistent with it, you'll start having listings. I hope somehow I inspired you to think about this idea, and I hope to see you in class one day. Take care.